Greetings, my fellow difference makers. Welcome to the launch of SAICA's Blue Table Talk. This platform is for difference makers. It's for young change makers. It's for global change makers. It's for SAICA Top 35 under 35. It's a platform that's going to bring the trailblazers together and share our story behind the numbers. And what story do you want to talk about today? We're talking about Movember. Not just about growing the beards, but about men's physical health and men's mental health. And I'm not alone. My name is Paul Wemakoye-Wombo, and I'm here with Mohammed Bulbulia, Zunaid Robertson, and Nick Rima. We are here as men to break down Movember, to break down men's physical health, to break down men's mental health. We're going to go into the awareness. We're going to go into the misconceptions around men's health, and also how we can support each other as an institution, but also as individual men as well. It's the support systems you can get from mental and physical element. So getting straight into the conversation, I'd like to talk about with Mohammed, awareness. When did you first become aware of taking care of your mental health or physical health?
Thanks for the question, Paul. I think the first time I became aware or really in tune with my mental health and getting on top of it was when I failed third year at Wits in university. And I think that's something, I know I'm speaking on behalf of myself, not anyone else, but something that a lot of people in the CA stream could resonate with, as I think a lot of us are academically inclined and also competitive, and want to achieve at the best level.
Yeah.
And coming to terms with the fact that I wasn't able to achieve at that level for my own reasons, for my own approach to my studies, my own attitude towards accounting at the time. That failure really brought me to terms, especially also having had a part of my identity, attuned to academic excellence, etc. But so at that time, I was really down in the dumps. It made me question, a lot of who I am, my worth, what my value is. But I think through that process, in terms of reaching out, establishing relationships with other CA students who perhaps were in a similar position, people who had gone through something, already, many failures, and my own family, I was able to really come out stronger from that. But by learning from, my failure, what went wrong, doing deep reflection and some introspection, and coming to terms with the fact that, my worth is not necessarily tied to my achievements, academic or otherwise, and taking it from there. But I think the real first kick to the gut was that failure, overwhelming, four subjects, all four.
No.
Which
so I connect with you there. I failed my CTA, all four subjects.
Okay.
So at least it was third year for you. But from my point of view, I want to touch on two key points that you mentioned there. Identity. As a man, you don't want to fail. You don't want to be have seen a failure in your family, in your work, in your profession as well. And while you were talking, I noticed that the thoughts and the affirmations that you say to yourself as a man are so important when you find yourself in a state of failure. For me, for example, I operate with a growth mindset where I believe that even if I've had my worst day, even if I failed, I have that arrogance to believe that I'll rise again. And that's where that resilience comes from. And I think we both have that. And Zunaid, maybe just coming into you, you went through a different path. You went through the journalism route, and it's hard to tell stories and to see where you want to place yourself. And you ended up in SAICA, an accounting firm. Did you experience failure in your journey, and how did you navigate that from a mental health perspective?
Okay, so thank you, Paul. My journey was actually quite a bit different in that, following on from what Mohammed said, is that not so much failure, but, being a man, being seen as a man, what a man needs to do.
Yeah.
So as a man, you need to provide, you need to do certain things, you need to accomplish certain things. Your day or your daily life needs to be about looking after others, getting things done for others. So in my journey, the thing was, I always ascribed to success or tried my best to succeed, to get things done, to get done what was expected of me.
Yeah.
However, the problem was, on the one side, I always looked at getting things done, but I did not take note or care of the underlying self. my mind, my body. So I did what was expected, but I didn't look after me. And so, I've got a journalism degree. I finished university. I'm working for SAICA.
Yeah.
So a lot has gone good in my life, but I recently was diagnosed with a mental, I don't want to say illness, because it's not an illness, it's a condition for which I'm being treated.
Yeah.
But before the diagnosis, I was an alcoholic. I was drinking a lot. I was not taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And the stigma around being a man is you can't talk to anyone.
Yeah.
You can't share what you're going through. You can't speak about your experiences. And I think for me, I've known there was something, mentally, but the stigma about talking about it or looking for help is what kept me back and kept me in the bad situation. So I was doing what is expected, but I wasn't looking after me.
And pulling you back in, Sinead, like I applaud you for all the successes that you have. And I look across the successful men. I'm around successful men right here, and society, there's so much focus on the execution, on you must be successful, you must be there for your family, you must be operating functionally and so on. But we don't see the inputs that go into getting that execution, getting that point of saying, I'm a successful man, I'm a person that's overcome difficulty, failure, overcome alcoholism, overcome mental illness. My younger brother, he's an autistic, non-verbal boy, but he's one of the smartest and most emotionally connected boys that I've seen. And he doesn't feel like he's failed in life. But us as men who, we have so many successes in life, we have, top 35 under 35, we working for the world's most trusted CA designation and so on. And to tell that story, you on one of the best platforms. So what I want to focus on as well, and I'll ask Mohammed also, Zunaid touches on, we focus on the execution, the part that you're supposed to be successful as a man. But what have you had to sacrifice, or can you think of a time where you had to sacrifice your mental health to achieve a certain goal, sacrifice your mental health to be a top 35, not 35, sacrifice your mental health or physical health to have a successful business and so on? One of those times where you feel like my mental health is taking a backseat? And maybe to share a bit from my side, I've had some difficulty going through a divorce this year, and it was at the point where I was fighting for promotion for work, and I felt that I couldn't take a step back from work because I had to fight, and this promotion was going to take me out of financial issues to help my family be financially better, that I help and take care of. But I was putting a backseat to my mental health. So maybe just to ask you as a brother, when did you feel that you had to take your mental health took a backseat?
Great question. Thanks, Paul. A couple of instances spring to mind, but one theme was really, I'll speak about, during articles, audit articles at a Big Four, which can get really intense, especially during busy season.
Yeah.
And one point where I felt, that I guess my mental health and maybe physical health was in question was during one of those extremely busy seasons, and we were on a couple of audits, and I felt like I was spinning my wheels and just running on empty. And I felt really, when I say empty, I felt quite empty inside and drained. And I think a really interesting thing again that came out of that, right, was going to the core of why I felt that way, why I felt burnt out, etc. And for me, the understanding was, and this was really from reflection and introspection, which I've spoken about previously, which I think is so important. For me, it was identifying that I personally wanted a bit more control over my own time, and I wanted more control over my execution of actions. And so the funny thing is, having realized that, and then launching my CA Hub, which as a startup and your own business can really be super intense as well. It's a real roller coaster ride. And there's periods of intense work. In fact, sometimes even more work than during articles, 13, 14, 15-hour days. But the funny thing is, or the interesting thing is now, when I pursue those, or I work in those 14, 15-hour days, I actually don't feel burnt out. And I actually don't feel, drained. Sometimes it can be even a bit more invigorating and give me more stamina, because it's speaking to the root of what was causing those issues to my mental health at the time. Those things against my value, against the time, against the execution. So one way perhaps to remedy that, or just as a tip from my side that helped when I felt like that, is if you understand, take some time to identify and address the root core issues, it could lead to solving those. So for example, now I don't feel burnt out working those long hours or days. And I don't feel like I'm sacrificing my mental health. Even there is that, physical toll, etc.
Wow. And Mohammed, I'm so blown away by that, because you already have such a fantastic story. I've spoken to you quite a few times, but it's the first time I see how, as a man, we're not afraid to work. We're not afraid to put in the hours and so on. But when you feel like you're not fulfilling your purpose and you're not, living out your true self, your true identity as well, then that feeling of conflict, that feeling of, this is not right in my mind, this is not right with my soul, that comes through. And Junaid, coming to you, you followed your passion in terms of journalism, you working in an accounting firm. How do you feel like you're fulfilling your purpose, and how did you bring yourself out of that hole to say that I'm struggling with this difficulty, but my passion and my purpose is strong enough that it's going to push me to reach this goal, to be the man that I want to be and not the man that society tells me to be?
Okay. So thank you. Good question. And again, following from what Mohammed said, I want to actually start on something he touched on. Now, like I said, I was diagnosed earlier this year with a mental condition. And since I've been on treatment, now I can manage my time. My days are going good. My work is good. I do what's expected of me, but with my own well-being always at the forefront. So I'm getting a lot done, but I'm feeling it better. I'm in a better space, right? Before this, though, I think my mental health always took a backseat. So again, I was always getting done what needed to be done, but I was living with anxiety. I was riddled with fear. I was riddled with worry. I was always drinking. So you can say stuck with addiction. So much was going wrong. And then finally, when I decided, you know what, enough is enough. It doesn't really matter what society says a man should do or who he should be. I need to take care of who I am. And then again, going to see the psychiatrist, getting the diagnosis, going on to treatment was life-changing for me. And ever since that point, now that I'm consciously working on my mental health especially, I'm able to, look, I don't have a specific ambition to say that not, I want to be the richest man. My ambition is that I want to be the best man possible. And especially not just for myself, but for my family. I recently had a son. I was born,
Congrats.
Thank you. I was born about 3 weeks ago. And I'm in so much of a better space to grow him up, to rear that child, and also to be the best person I can be, but because I address the mental health issues.
Wow. And just to come in there, first of all, congratulations on being a new dad. We're very happy for you. He's a future difference maker. But something you touched on, it was ringing in my mind, and I was thinking of my own story as well, is that I think men do want to address the issues that they have. It's just the means and the methods that we go about that is the issue. Like, sometimes you'll be with your boys and you want to open up about the difficulties you're going through. And then the guys are like, let's go out, let's drink. And then there's a lot of club culture and so on. And then you find that it creates more problems and so on. And you feel like it's a good coping mechanism because you're out with the boys, it's a community, but you're actually not getting to the root of the problem. And what I want to focus on now is the cost of taking care of your mental health and so on, because I mean, we all in the industry where, you earn a salary or you run your own business, and there's a cost to everything, and you either take care of your family, newborn son and so on. And there's a cost attached to mental health and so on. So maybe I can ask, Mohammed, maybe as an accountant and as a difference maker, what are some cost effective ways we can think of to help men take care of their mental health? Not everyone can afford the best mental institutions, and
Sorry.
I hear you. I mean, a mental institution in a good way. So we're breaking down that stigma. It's like, so we want to go as men to an akeso, for example, or to a therapist to talk and so on, but that cost element needs to be spoken about. So how can we as guys get help in an affordable, sustainable way?
Okay. I'm not a psychiatrist. So I'm just a difference maker. No, I'm just I'm a CA, bro.
Yeah.
But and I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone. I don't like to do that. But on behalf of myself, and my understanding, I think, and especially going off what Sunaid said, once, he was the first step is to look inside yourself, right? You can spend all the money on all the therapists, and this is just my opinion, all the psychologists. But if you don't do the introspection yourself, change comes from within, right? So the first step is, and you don't have to pay, you don't have to pay in money for that. The cost may be a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of pain, emotional pain. There's a cost to everything. But I think it is worth it. I think it's definitely worth it. So the first step is you've got to come from, in my opinion, from a position of, I want to be better. I want to change. I want to address my deficiencies or my weaknesses to whatever they may be, to be stronger as a man, as a person, as a CA, etc. And then secondly, this is again just my opinion from what I've read or researched, but talking helps. Talking definitely helps. Being able to verbalize, your emotions, the way you feel, what you're going through. One thing that I think would help as men, and I just saw this from a podcast, but was that, for example, women tend to relate face to face, in a conversational context, whereas men connect or bond side to side in working together, whether it's watching the game or doing an activity together. And in that, it breaks down or it forges those bonds to be able to communicate and touch better. And so I think an easy way, I know you've spoken about this previously, is taking the effort to start like a paddle group, a community, so if you feel like you're looking for that connection or you need some help, I'd say make the effort to get some like-minded guys together and do an activity. Do an activity, and in that in my opinion or understanding, you'll forge those bonds and be able to break down perhaps those stigmas, social stigmas around it, and get one level deeper to the core and connect. And you don't, again, have to pay for a therapist. That can just be making the effort, making yourself a bit vulnerable and putting yourself in a position to be helped.
Wow. And you took the words right out of my mouth, because as you were speaking, I was thinking about my own story. And from the time of the divorce, this paddle group, it's people that I met at a friend's birthday party. The coping mechanisms, you feel like you should be going out and everything. And then the guys were like, let's play paddle. Let's do something wholesome and so on. Started with 6 people. My birthday was the week after that. And they were like, bro, we don't want you to spend your birthday alone. Invite your friends and so on. Let's add them to a group. And then that group just kept on adding. We kept adding social events. And each week, every Tuesday, every Thursday, we play paddle. And I'm taking care of my physical health. And I'm also having activities side by side with people that care about me, that care to see me succeed and to grow as well. And at a time where the divorces are very expensive. Men go through a lot with partners, separations, kids, maintenance. There's so many issues that men go through as well. And I think we're grateful to have you as a present father also. But there's a lot of realities of absent fathers. I've had an absent father also who was still present, but there's elements of him that were absent in my everyday life and struggle. And this is going to be a tough question to you, Zunaid, but what do you think it takes from a mental and physical perspective to be present in your child's life? There's many fathers for many reasons where they can complain about mothers being difficult, the law, finances, and so on. But what does it take mentally? And I know you just at the start now, but what do you believe it will take mentally and physically to be a present father for your child?
So again, in line with my journey, I think one of the most important things for a present father is to take care of his own mental health first. Because if you yourself are struggling, there's no way you can take responsibility for another person's life. especially somebody who is wholly and fully dependent on you. Like they can't do anything for themselves. You need to do it. But the reason I feel that so many shy away from this responsibility is because they don't really have a full understanding of how to look after themselves. Right? Not only that, but again, in line with mental conditions and mental illnesses, half the time they don't even have an understanding of life. They don't have an understanding of how things should be.
Sure.
Being stuck in your own understanding or in your own non-understanding of things, right? Not being able to cope, not being able to facilitate what is needed in order to run a family. So I think the most, more than physical, because regardless of your physical circumstance, the better you are in a health perspective, physically, the better it is for you. But the physical health is not that important in rearing a child, as important as mental health. I think the key to being a good father or to being a present father is having your mental health, having your sanity.
Exactly. And I think to have that strength from a mental perspective, because it is strength, you need to be strong. You need to understand yourself. You need to understand your purpose. You need to understand your word. Thoughts leads to words, leads to actions as well. If you say you want to be a father, if you want to be in people's life, people need to trust your word. And that speaks to one of the core values of SAICA as well. Integrity and being trusted. Your family needs to trust that you'll be there for them in good times and bad times as well. And maybe I can ask this key difference maker of ours. As a profession that's promoting integrity, the values of trust, the values of being dependable. Like when people come to you with their CPD problems, they believe that Muhammad can help me and so on. So as men, how can we enhance our word, enhance the fact that we can be trusted without taking that extreme toll on our mental health? It's a very tough question, but
it's a good question. And again, I'm not a psychologist, but I think when you say how can we live up to our word without taking that toll on our mental health, I think if I break it down, the first thing is don't promise things that you can't fulfill. Right? Or don't promise things that go contrary to your values and who you are. So be accountable with your word and be careful with what you say, because you can promise like, I want to go, and you can promise like, I'm going to attend this event with maybe your significant other, but you don't really want to do it. And, I feel like if you're not being authentic upfront and discussing and saying that it's okay if I don't want to go, let me voice that, or let him make it known, then you're going to go in a compromised fashion. You may go there with a sour face. You may put on, it may be a terrible thing for you to have gone. In any case, you've sabotaged that and yourself and the whole thing. So I think firstly, be careful with your word. And secondly, I think, especially as integrity is such a key component of the CA profession, and our industry, I think that if you go counter to that, we say we have integrity, we say we are honest as chartered accountants. If you go counter to that, I think, well, my understanding is if you profess to be a CA and have integrity and you go counter to that, you automatically bringing, mental anguish and, a disconnect between what you profess and what you're actually doing. So, and that, I think that toll on your mental health for all, unfortunately the CAs that may have been a bit unscrupulous. A good question I think to ask is when they were actually doing those, things, what was their mental health like?
Right.
What was the stress that they most probably felt, of having something on their head and doing those things? I think so. In keeping with your word, firstly, make sure that you can do what you say. And secondly, don't go against that, because that will lead to, in my opinion, anguish and a detriment to your mental health.
I think that's a beautiful thought to conclude this discussion on. I feel that from a truth and integrity point of view, you have to own your word as a man. And we need to break that stigma that a man has to do everything. A man has to hold up the house. A man has to never cry. A man has to, you can never be in touch with your emotions or talk about your emotions, but you have to carry everything with you. As a man, all you need to do is be honest about what you can do, be honest about what you can't do. And that's going to translate into our professions, into our families, into the spaces that we go into. And as difference makers over here, let's hold on to those values of integrity. And, as I'm learning as well in this journey of healing that I'm going through, is that it's okay to not be able to do anything. We are enough as men. We're enough, and let's tell the truth and walk in truth and integrity to be better men in society and to help our mental and physical health as well. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to Mohammed and Zunaid. The conversation continues with another difference maker in Nicholas Rima. He's a SAICA Top 35 Under 35 winner. The co-founder of the Invigilator app and Nova Messenger as well. And I greatly look forward to breaking down the conversation further on men's mental health and men's physical health for Movember. Thank you. But Nick, we are talking about and continuing the conversation on men's physical health and men's mental health. And I've met you in different stages of my life where I think you have such an incredible reach of over 1 million students, where you tap into the mind where they're most stressed, busy writing an exam and so on. And you went from being a student to sort of facilitating that process to maintain integrity and so on. So from your point of view, when did you in your personal journey become aware of the importance of mental health?
Yeah. Thanks so much, Paul. Always good to see you and chat to you. And I've known you for many years now. I've been fortunate to know you for many years now. And I think, for me, I've always been someone that's wanted to run my own business, very entrepreneurial. And I think that, the goals of sort of doing what you need to do for your company and making it work kind of sit, right at the top of that list. Yeah. And I think really, the last few years, especially with the Invigilator, you don't stop. You continue working, long hours. Yeah. And it can be something that you ignore. And I saw that firsthand last year, where we'd been to an especially rough period of tech development. Anything in tech, anything with that many users at scale is always going to be difficult. It's never going to be easy. But nothing worth doing is. And I think that, I didn't place enough importance on my mental health. And I actually ended up in the hospital at the end of last year due to, the doctors didn't actually know what was wrong, but it was really just being overworked and neglecting what your body was trying to tell you and what your mind was trying to tell you. And I think, that since then, I've really looked at placing importance on making sure you're okay, because, if you're not okay, your business is not going to be okay either. So if you need to take that step away, and if you need to have that balance, especially on the weekends, it's important to incorporate that and incorporate strong, members around you, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's your colleagues within the company. Important to have those pillars of strength around you and to use and lean on them, for guidance and support. And I think that's something that, this year now, there's a lot more emphasis to take that hour break and go to the gym, clear your minds, as opposed to, I'm just going to, continue to work, push through until this specific task is over. And I think, even in your own business, the tasks never end. So before you know it, you're just stuck behind your desk for 16, 17 hours a day. Yeah. And before you know it, you're fatigued and you're putting yourself at risk. So I think, I learned that lesson firsthand, where now for me, I've seen how important it is to balance your life correctly. Yeah.
Jeez, I'm blown away by that, Nick. I think when I look at you, I see a winner, I see a champion, I see someone that's resilient. And, I'll just, from based on what you said in your journey as well, you worked before you became a chartered accountant as well. You worked in the industry and you saw what was happening. You decided you wanted to work through UJ. You became an academic trainee, trained at First Strand and went into business. So there was a lot of times where you could have questioned yourself and say, am I on the right path? Have I made a mistake? And so on. And even with all the success now, there is a cost to success, if I can say that. And from your point of view, I just want to get an idea, how much is too much of a cost to take away from that success? So some of us, if I talk about myself, I was speaking earlier with Mohammed and Zunaid, where I was in a position this year where I was going through a divorce and I was also putting myself up for promotion at work. And I decided to give my mental health a step back to focus on this promotion, but it wouldn't have been worth it because I built this perception of what success is and so on. And in your view of what success is for the Invigilator app, what success is for Nick Rima, what is too much to pull away? What does balance look like in terms of, I'm prioritizing my mental health, I'm putting this in, but it might have the following impact on my business and so on.
Yeah.
Is it more of a long-term view or,
No, I think it's a great question. And I think that, I think for people, typically what's seen is the success, right? If you look at what people see on the surface, if you look at what people see on social media, you're not putting out there the dark or the tough days. People are only seeing when things are up in light. So it looks like you're just doing unbelievably well. And I think for me, when we've had tough times, and we have there, I have many days where we wake up and, some of the toughest days for me where you think that, you really are, struggling to complete the task at hand and you feel like, not a lot is going right. When I look back now, you actually realize those are the times that you as an individual and the company has actually grown the most because you're actually doing the difficult tasks that make you a differentiator. So I think it's important to have a network around you where people are understanding that process, because especially as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you're going to have those tough days. You're going to have days where things have not gone right. You're going to have days where, you're struggling to pay people in the early years and you're needing to put all of those self-sacrifices in the greater good of your company. And it's difficult. But I think for me, going back to the studies and the sacrifices and working, it was just something that was important to me. And I think there's a big difference between hard work and putting strain on your mental health. And I think sometimes now the lines can be blurred where you're going to have to work hard if you want to achieve something. So you can't always just blame, I'm looking after my mental. There are days where you're going to have to wake up at 3:00 in the morning to study, to go to work because it means something to you. And you know that you're going to be that it's going to add value to your life, your family's lives, your business lives. And for me, it was an easy decision to go back, even though working to study, because I wanted to do it. And I think that makes it easier because it almost gave me a natural balance, because I was happy in the sacrifices I was making because I wanted to achieve it. I wasn't doing it for anyone else. And I think that's extremely important, that you get one life, you want to live it to your fullest. So do things, especially in your career, that are going to make you happy, not other people happy. Wow. And I think once you've done that, then it makes it a lot easier to remain positive and remain focused at the task at hand. And I think something else that I've realized that's extremely important, no matter how many things you have going on, is to take that day or that hour to go and get your release. I'm not someone that likes to go out and party, but if that's you, and then reward yourself. For me, I like to go to the gym when I get a gap. It's something that gives me a bit of a release, it makes me more mentally aware. I sometimes come up with my best ideas just walking on the treadmill because you're just taking a break and a change of scenery. And then every now and then I get on the golf course as well. So even though it's long, it's 5 hours, 6 hours, my wife and my family understand that that's just something, for me, that's important to almost reset, and be ready for the next week. And I think you need to make sure that when you find those different things in life that are going to give you that release, that are going to allow you mentally to remain stable and to remain positive, that you don't put them down the list because now someone else is requiring your time elsewhere. Exactly. You need to put that first because it's going to be good for your mental health overall.
Beautiful. And my release personally is I've created a social club where we play paddle every Tuesdays and Thursdays as well. And it's different. It's like because we were talking about the not improper, but there's non-conducive ways that people try to release and so on. Some can go drinking and going out and so on. And you find that a lot of times men do that and then they get more problems after that as well. So I love that you touched on that also. I think you mentioned quite a bit about community and then the necessarily having a support structure that can help you through your mental health and the periods where there's hard work and you need to push through and so on. Is that how Nova Messenger was born in terms of the sense of community and so on? And maybe you can just speak in terms of maybe as a conclusion, your views on community and how men can support each other properly through proper mental health.
Perfect. Now, so I think, for Nova Messenger, I think something that obviously with Invigilator is, all you need as a student now to study is an entry-level smartphone. No matter where you are, you can study at universities and schools that are offering online programs now through the app. So I think as a extra step in that, we saw that, some of the communication was still sort of stuck in the Stone Age, where even though you were now moving online, you were still needing to get an SMS or an announcement was being made on the learner management system, but there wasn't really an effective way to replicate a lecturer communicating with you at the front of the class or the front of the exam venue. And that was the idea for Nova Messenger, to really bring your community closer so that it opens up direct communication channels then with your different lecturers. And when I look back on some of my earlier studies, I didn't do my CA straight away. I did another degree first. I had no relationship with the lecturers. They were almost, sort of inaccessible. And the idea around that was to create a community where if you want to consult, if you want to ask questions, everything's there now at your fingertips. So really, you only need an entry-level smartphone wherever you are to study something, both from taking your exams and from receiving all of your academic material and consulting through the platform. And I think that having that team group or that sense of community when going into a business or anything from a studying point of view is extremely important. And I look at my company and the strong individuals that we have there, and it's we're all in the trenches together, and then when things are going well, you're celebrating together, but you've always got that support structure within a company. And I think that's been something that's very important to me in the way we've built our companies up, that our team members are vital and pillars of strength in everything that we do. We do everything together. No one ever takes the blame when something goes wrong. Everyone's in it. We've got the same goal in mind. And it becomes a lot easier then, when times are tough, because you've got that community. And I think that within the SAICA community, being an entrepreneur, being in audit, going through articles, being in your last few years of study, there's a massive community within the SAICA network that I think sometimes is not utilized as effectively as it could be by individuals. And I think for those that are listening, SAICA offers a huge amount in terms of establishing a community where people are going through what you're going through, and you can bounce things off. You can find a mentor, and that makes your journey a lot easier. And every now and again, you just need to bounce something off someone to be like, you're on the right path. It's going to give you that little bit of a reset so that you wake up tomorrow with a much more positive attitude, with the task at hand that you're going to complete this successfully.
My goodness, guys. That concludes on a powerful note on community and an incredible story behind the millions of numbers that our amazing difference maker here, Nick Riemer, impacts and creates a difference with. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining the first ever episode of SAICA's Blue Table Talk. And happy rest of Movember. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Paul.
No, thanks, Nick.
So much.
Yo, you killed it, man.
Oh, no,